Welcome into the Lucas and Lucas podcast alongside Lucas Frankel. As always, I'm Mike Lucas. A big day for our 3,231st episode of the podcast. Jimmy Buckets, James Harden, the Salty Samba, the nicknameless bearded fiasco is back after the game against the Spurs last night in which the Nets won. He said, guys, I'm really damn good at this game, as if he had not just missed a month plus with a hamstring injury. Frankel, Jimmy Buckets is your hero, your idol, and your favorite Net. So how good was it to see him back playing again, and not just playing, but in those beautiful baby blue uniforms?
But it feels like they only wear those when Harden plays. I feel like they didn't wear it a single game that he didn't play in. Am I crazy, or was that how it went?
I would have to do some more research.
Right,
I don't watch it as frequently as you do because they're not the local team for me. But
either way, okay. So James Harden, having him back was just completely magical. He is, without question, the most important, indispensable player on that team. And quite frankly, it is not close. The Nets are 28-7 when he plays. That is an 80% win clip. They win 80% of their games when he is on the court. 28-7. When he does not play, they are 18-17. They are barely a 500 team when James Harden is not on the court. When he is on the court, they win 80% of the games. They are easily, without question, when he is on the floor, the best, most complete team in the entire NBA. And I know all the MVP people are, Jokic is like minus 2,000. Steph Curry's in the mix. Joel Embiid's in the mix. James Harden, I don't care how many games he's missed, and he's not going to win the award. And Steph Curry is doing incredible things with the Philadelphia 70s, with the Golden State Warriors, and Embiid's doing great things with the Sixers. James Harden is the most valuable player in the NBA this season. I don't know where the Nets would be if they didn't acquire him. They would be, a 4 seed, a 5 seed. If Harden didn't get hurt, they would have ran away with the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. He is just completely incredible. And what he did last night in his return, 18 points, 11 assists, 7 rebounds in 26 minutes, just a complete clinic from the time he stepped on the court. The ball movement was just magical, complete perfection. The bounce pass up the court to Jeff Green through four players, and then he had another play in like the third quarter where he drew the defenders, threw it to Nick Claxton. There was no one within 30 feet of him. It was him in the basket, and there was no one close to him. It was incredible, Mike. I am over the moon seeing James Harden back, even though Kyrie was there. I don't care. As long as Harden's there, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think in the regular season, Harden is the most indispensable player. Come postseason time, I've seen enough of Harden's shortcomings to believe that he'll be more important in the postseason than Durant is. But you're right. He does things that no one else on the roster can do. And it is his ability to control the pace of the game, to make guys just bet. Look what he did on some of those Houston teams. Those Houston teams were horrendous talent-wise outside of Harden, with the occasional second star with Chris Paul or Russell Westbrook whenever they came in. Those were not uber-talented teams, and yet they won 70% of games in a loaded Western Conference because James Harden is that good and that unstoppable in the regular season. He might be the single most efficient offensive guard the NBA has ever seen in terms of his shooting percentage, his ability to get to the line, and also his ability to create for others, because he, despite the notion that he's an iso ball hog, is an elite passer. He's an elite passer, one of the best the league has seen in the last 2 decades, contrary to the belief that give him the ball, stand still, and he'll do his thing one-on-one, which he still can do when he needs to, which we saw last night. He's changed. He's been way more unselfish with the Nets. And yeah, it is frightening to think that Brooklyn was as competitive as they were without him. And we still have yet to see really what happens with the trio all together. But I think Harden can unlock the best of Durant and Kyrie just by the sheer magnitude of the weight he draws from the defense the second the ball touches his hands.
Yeah, when like I said, when Harden's on the court, you have Kyrie at the 2, you have Durant whatever position he plays, and that's the perfect spot for Kyrie. He doesn't have to put, he doesn't have all this pressure on him that he's got to, be the ball handler, the guy that's got to, take every big shot for the possession. He can just, figure out, pick his spots, weave his way to the open spot on the floor. Harden's going to find him, and it's going to be magical. And I was really, really nervous about the whole 7 games thing. But after last night, granted, probably overreaction, but it just led me to believe that if Harden's there, then sky's the limit for this team. But so we have 2 games left in the regular season for the Nets. As of now, they're currently the 2 seed in the conference. It's really up in the air though, because Milwaukee has the tiebreaker and the Nets are only 1 game ahead of them in the loss column. So basically, the Nets at this moment control their own destiny, win these last 2 games against the Bulls and Cavs on a Saturday and a Sunday.
They should, which they should.
Right. It's just a matter of how hard they go for it, and that whether they play the guys on back-to-back games, which, I mean, in one of these last 2 games here, you got to have Kyrie, Harden, Durant playing together. That has to happen. It is so crucial that happens. And then hopefully Milwaukee, finds a way to lose one of these last 2 games that they play. They got the Pacers, which are no slouch. Karis LeVert is imagine if the Nets still had him, man. They have the Pacers, the Heat, which could be a loss, and the Bulls. So the Nets' magic number is 2. They need a combination of 1 win and 1 Bucks loss, and then they get or combination, or they obviously win their last 2 games or get 1 Bucks loss. They get the 2 seed. That's critical for me because the Nets could place one of the following teams in the first round. It could either be, because of the logjam from 4 through 6 with the Heat, Hawks, and Knicks. Who knows how that's going to shake out the next couple of days. And then 7, 8, 9 is the Celtics, who are just have given up. They have packed it in. The Celtics are going to get swept or lose in 5 games in their first round series, whoever they face.
That is who you want to play. I know they're the 7 seed, but that is your number 1 option if you could choose any of the playing teams.
And then you have the Hornets, and then you have the Pacers, and then the Wizards, who are going to be the 10 seed, most likely. Obviously, Bradley Beal, the strained hamstring. We saw Harden was out over a month with the strained hamstring. The Wizards can downplay it as much as they want, but I've seen it with Durant and Harden this year. Strained hamstrings take over a month to heal, and even if they do get Beal back, that is a killer for the Wizards.
Ironically, I would want to play them least from 10 to 7.
But
Wizards are my worst team I want to play, or the team I want to play the least, then the Pacers, then the Hornets, and the Celtics is the team I want to play more than anyone else.
So if the Nets get the 2 seed, that'll be huge. But if they end up falling to 3, which would be a huge gut punch, and they're forced to face the Knicks or the Heat or the Knicks or the Heat especially, that is just a brutal, brutal break. The Nets match up horribly. Could not match up worse with the Miami Heat. Bam Adebayo in the paint will eat them alive. Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, elite 3-point shooters, can, you fall asleep on them for a second and they will make you pay. And then Jimmy Butler is the biggest dog in the NBA. There isn't a tougher player in the league than Jimmy Butler, and he terrifies the crap out of me. And then the Knicks, I know the Nets will beat the Knicks in probably a 6 or 7 game series, but the Knicks are they compete so hard, and they have so much effort that series would be such a headache, which is why I really, 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 really want that 2 seed, because to get a not like a cakewalk, but to get a series that, barring basically a true miracle, you should win, and that's the spot I really want the Nets to be in, especially in round 1 as we get set for the playoffs here next week.
No, it makes sense. Also, Miami has been Milwaukee's Achilles heel for the last 2 postseasons, so having Milwaukee have to start their championship run going through a Miami team that's knocked them out of the playoffs 2 years in a row. If it doesn't happen a 3rd time, at least entering that 2nd round series, they're going to be tight. It's not going to be a 4 or 5 game series. I mean, Miami's good enough to take them 7 games and exert energy for 7 games. And legitimately any little edge you can get from a Nets perspective heading to that 2nd round series to make it easier, because you have Philly coming up in round 3, and physicality-wise, Milwaukee and Philly are just more physical than Brooklyn, and we've seen how fragile some of the Nets stars are. The less bangs and bumps and bruises they take along the way, the fresher they are heading into the later rounds of the postseason is absolutely crucial. The Hawks scare the crap out of me too, because if Bogdanovich is making threes and Gallo's they can score 150 on any given night. Now, so can the Nets, but that's not necessarily a shooting contest I feel comfortable winning game in and game out. I think they'd beat the Knicks. I think they'd beat the Heat, but I would so much rather play the Celtics or the Hornets in round 1 and have that easier path to round 2. Once you get to round 2, hopefully Milwaukee is beat up and battered after Miami series, and then you guys take your chances with Philly.
Last thing on the Nets real quick. Back to the MVP thing. Obviously, Jokic is going to win the award. But in your mind, aside from LeBron, because in the grand scheme of things, LeBron's the most valuable player in the league, who in your mind is the most valuable player in the NBA this season?
It's Jokic.
You think it's all right? All right.
And I just say this because, and it's not the durability thing is part of it, but he's top 5 in the league in points, rebounds, and assists on a team that's 4th in the West, with losing their arguably second or third best player, midway through the season. And he's kept them afloat when a lot of people thought they would sink. So you get a big man who, in my opinion, is the single most dangerous crunch time player in the league. He's unguardable. Top 5 points, rebounds, assists. You take him off that Nuggets team. Say he gets hurt instead of Murray. That team craters. It craters. I understand the Harden argument. I'm guessing that's where you're going here, Frank. But Jokic, top 5 in the league, points, rebounds, assists, and he hasn't missed a game. Give it. It's Jokic's. I know he's getting it because everyone else got hurt, but he has had an MVP caliber season. Take the other stuff out of the equation.
Here's how I don't disagree that he's going to win it, but here's how I would look at it. LeBron's missed too many games, but here's how I look at the league in terms of value. Some combination of Steph and Harden are right there at the top. Because just the Warriors, I mean, they just simply can't compete when Curry's not there. They are a complete laughing stock when he does not play. And with him, they just beat the Suns and the Jazz in back-to-back nights. It's unbelievable what he's been able to do when he plays them. They don't play, they're 1-7. Talk about crater. The Warriors crater. And we've seen what the Nets are without James Harden, a 500 basketball team. When he plays, they win 80% of their games. They go from 500 winning percentage to 80%. That is drastic. And then after that, Joel Embiid, I think, is extremely. I honestly think it's not going to happen, but those 3 guys are way more valuable to their teams than Jokic is to his team. And I'll take that to my grave.
We haven't seen what the Nuggets look like without Jokic this year because he hasn't got hurt. But you look at how their offense runs through him on every possession, even when Murray's healthy. I don't know how you could look at Jokic and say, take him off, and they're still okay. Their whole team changes without him. He is their offense. They just have so many moving pieces around him. And actually, look at what Aaron Gordon's done since being traded from Orlando to Denver. I mean, he has absolutely flourished playing with a guy like Jokic who, as soon as he's open, is giving him the rock. He's almost like Tom Brady in that sense where he doesn't care who you are, what your background is. If you're open, you're getting the rock. And Jokic, at any time, at any point in the game, is willing to distribute and make the right basketball play, which makes the Nuggets such a frustrating team to try and defend. You can double him, and he's going to give it up every time. You go single coverage against him, he'll back you down, do that little ugly fadeaway jump hook, and there's just no way to stop him.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but in terms of value, I have him 4th.
Steph Curry is probably the most valuable in that sense then. Steph Curry is probably the MVP if that's what we're going off. Because you are right. The Warriors – they're 2-11 without him this year, and they're 36.
1-7.
1-7, and they're 36-28 with him. So, yeah, he's the most valuable if that's the case.
So, Mike, all right. So the Western Conference Western Conference. I mean, so LeBron, he said he was coming back Tuesday. No, wait, I'm going to come back Wednesday, and then pushes it back even further. Now it's going to be Saturday, and who knows if he'll change his mind after that. But to say who's going to win the Western Conference right now, I mean, I think this is such a crapshoot. To me, the Utah Jazz peaked way too early, and they are really, really stumbling here. I know they have won 50 games, still the most in the league, but they got such an incredible start. To me, they're a cross off. To me, there's no way they make the NBA Finals. The Phoenix Suns, not playing nearly as well as they to me, they've sort of and then you have the whole Chris Paul thing. When push comes to shove, I don't trust them. I saw them play against the Nets. The Nets completely just annihilated them even without James Harden. The Clippers should be the team that, theoretically, because everyone there is healthy, but they have the whole conference finals thing looming over them. And who knows how they're going to respond when the spotlight's the brightest of the Denver Nuggets without Jamal Murray. I know they've played well without him, but when push comes to shove, you need Jamal Murray if you're really seriously going to contend for a championship. And then after that, the Blazers have played really well. They won 5 straight. They won 9 of their past 10 games. You told me right now they're in the Western Conference Finals. I'd be like, yeah, I buy that. The Dallas Mavericks are playing really, really, really good basketball too. The 2 hottest teams in the West right now are the Blazers and the Mavericks. And then obviously the 7 through through 8 teams are the Lakers and the Warriors, and who knows what the Lakers are going to be. Gun to your head right now, who comes out of the West?
The Clippers, and I don't feel good about it. I just trust Kawhi, and they have 6 guys on the team shooting 40% from three. They have a guy in Kawhi who's proven on multiple occasions he can be the best player in an NBA postseason. And I do think that after last year's postseason collapse with the new head coach, they are – I don't want to say anyone's more motivated than someone else to win a championship because they're all motivated at that point. But I think they're out to prove something that last year was an all-time fluke. They weren't ready for the spotlight. And, you know, you look at the great championship teams throughout history. Sometimes you have to have that epic failure or collapse to reach the ultimate pinnacle. And last year was the ultimate embarrassment, being in the bubble, being the only sporting event on because of the COVID-19 pandemic. For them to come back and reach the Western Conference Finals. I mean, they have the pieces. They're in the 3 seed, which means they can avoid the Lakers in theory until the Western Conference Finals. I mean, you're right. It's a crapshoot, but I have the most confidence in them as opposed to, you know, I'm not. Luka is so good, but he's only winning 1 round. The Blazers, I don't know. Like, they look good, but they also look like crap at times. Like, they're hot and cold. So I just have most confidence in the Clippers. But by most confidence, it's not a 10. It's like a 4. That's just the most confidence of any team.
I hope that this plays out. The Lakers get the 7th seed. Then they play the Suns in round 1. Because if the Lakers play the Suns in round 1, the Lakers are winning that series. Lock it in. The 7th seed will beat the 2 seed. And after that, they'll face the Jazz. They'll beat the Jazz.
Yep.
And then they'll go to the Western Conference Finals against probably the Clippers or Portland or Dallas or one of those 3 teams. But yeah, if you told me right now how this plays out, I have no freaking idea. It's such a crapshoot. I have no idea what to make of it. But moving on to Major League Baseball, crazy. Literally every show is leading with the NFL today after the schedule release, but not us.
We know what the people really want. They want the Nets. And also, before we talk Yankees, let me just say this, Frank. How many more years does Garrett Cole have on his contract?
He's got like 7 more years.
Extend him for another decade. I want to see Garrett Cole pitching until I'm 50 years old. That's how electric he is. He's my favorite Yankee pitcher since CC Sabathia, which isn't that long ago. But
since like Roger Clemens.
No, since CC Sabathia. Well, CC was a lefty. He's my favorite right-handed pitcher ever in Yankee history, outside of Mariano Rivera. But he wasn't a start. My favorite starting right-handed pitcher on the Yankees who wears number 45 ever. Mark it, put it in stone, lock it in, extend him till I'm 50 years old. I want to see him throw knuckleballs just for the hell of it. Frankel, when you watch him pitch, I know this isn't how you want to start, and I don't care, but when you watch him pitch, is there a more electric pitcher in the league? Just from the way he stares down guys after strikeouts? Like, and maybe just the Rays, because I hate the Rays with a burning passion, but like that was the most fun baseball game I've watched in forever, and it wasn't even that great of a game.
That was fun to you? When the Yankees, like, to me, that was like, obviously it was like when Cole was on the mound, you just felt like, all right, they're not going to score here. That was great, but this whole not scoring any runs for Garrett Cole was like, damn, now I know what Mets fans are going through every time they watch Jacob deGrom. 9 innings, 1 run, they lose 1-0. That's like,
wait, his record's 3-2 this year, and his ERA is 0.65.
deGrom, yeah, it is baffling how dominant he's been and how few runs they score for their star pitcher. I mean, you have to win every time that Garrett Cole is out there. You have to win every time Jacob deGrom is out there, and just sitting there watching the Yankees. All right, the Yankees are facing this dude Ryan Yarbrough. His max speed on a fastball is 87 miles an hour. 87 miles an hour, and they can't touch him. It's unbelievable. I don't know how it happens. There's so much talk about these, want to get all these pitchers that throw 101, triple digits. And then the Rays are throwing this 87 mile an hour. I don't know what the hell he's doing out there, Ryan Yarbrough. And the Yankees can't touch him. It's unbelievable. 87. I could hit 87 miles an hour.
No, you couldn't. Not a chance. That is why it was frustrating at the same time, but it was fun because you look at it and you're like, I could hit that. And then I'm already so frustrated at the Yankees lineup that I think I'm just numb to the fact that when they strike out with a meatball pitch, I'm just like, oh yeah, it's supposed to happen. But I was at a baseball game the other day. I was actually talking to a Yankees scout, Yankees Texas scout, was at a high school game scouting a local kid who's committed to Auburn, who throws about 88, 89.
Wow.
And I was asking him, like, this is the third time I've seen you at this kid's game. Like, what do you look for?
Was he wearing Yankee paraphernalia?
He had a Yankee notebook, and he sits in the same spot at all the games. And
okay.
I've seen him a couple of times, and I was like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm a scout for the Yankees. I'm like, oh, I'm a Yankee fan. I'm from New Jersey. Cool. Really nice guy.
His name?
The kid he was looking at was Actually, I'm not sure I'm allowed to say that, so I'll text you offhand. But he's going to Auburn next year. He's a right-handed pitcher, really good kid. He says he comes to the games to see how a kid responds. They should dominate, but sometimes you don't have your ace stuff, and how do you fight against it? And this one particular game, the pitcher didn't have his ace stuff. He was throwing 85 instead of 89, and the scout noticed it, but he said, watch where he's like locating his fastball. Like, he's not throwing it with any part of he's not touching the middle of the plate at all. He's just on the outside or a little outside or inside, a little further inside. And his team ended up winning the game 3-2. It made me realize that speed is, well, I guess I always knew this, but speed is only half the battle. It's just not catching the plate. And it doesn't matter if you're throwing a 60-mile-an-hour knuckleball or whatever. As long as you're not catching the middle of the plate, the speed is almost irrelevant, because most hitters, especially at the major league level, are so – their hand and bat speed so fast that 100 miles an hour is like 95. There's no real difference. It's just how well can you locate. And, I hadn't thought of that, especially on the high school level where this kid's overpowering most of his opponents. But here in the Yankee Scout State, I was like, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. So there's your little inside tidbit on a Brenham pitcher going to Auburn next year, whose name I will not say because I think that might be illegal.
Yeah, but it's all about location. If you can't locate, it doesn't matter how hard you throw. If you're throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastball,
Kyle Farnsworth.
Yeah, whoever. I mean, even when Chapman doesn't have his command, he gets rocked. When Dellin Betances has 100-mile-an-hour pitches, when he doesn't have the command, it doesn't matter. If you can't command your pitches, you can have the greatest stuff in the world, but if you're throwing it right down the middle, you're gonna get rocked. That's just the way the sport of baseball works. But back to Garrett Cole for a second. He has now his 5 games with 10+ strikeouts and no walks this season. That's the most for any pitcher in season Yankee history. It's May 12th or May 3rd. He did it on May 12th. And we still have like 4 months of the season left, and he's already set a Yankee record for history. It's unbelievable. First pitcher in Major League Baseball history with at least 70 strikeouts and 3 or fewer walks in his first 8 games of his season. I mean, just pure domination. All he needs is 2 or 3 runs, and he's golden. And I love it. I was almost hoping the Yankees would send him out there for the 9th, but they obviously didn't do it. But they're now 20-16, 1 game back on the Red Sox. And Mike, I'll have to admit, I overreacted when they were 6-11 or 5-11, whatever it was.
You overreact? No,
I was just really scared. And obviously, listen, it's still really, really early in the season, but now we're in a really good position. Just 1 game back at first place, and just gotta take it day by day here. And winning these games in Tampa, it's almost like the Yankees realize, like, hey, this Rays team, like, this isn't the team we lost to in the playoffs last year. This team is different. They can't hit. Like, they're the freaking Rays, and let's just beat them. And that's what they're doing, and I love it. Like, I hate the Rays. Like, beat them every time.
How high have the Rays skyrocketed up your least favorite sport franchise list? Like, I know the Red Sox are probably still number 1. Are the Patriots 2? Where do the Rays I'll tell you my list in a second. Where do the Rays factor into your list?
Ooh, teams I hate the most. Well, like, it's hard to say. I mean, it's not necessarily like the Patriots. It's more like Belichick. I just can't stand Belichick.
Should we do this list next week? Should we think about it and do this list next week?
Let's do it next week so I can really dive in and tell you the teams I really, really hate. It's more so, I honestly, the teams that I root for get under my skin more. I feel like the Nets, if they just do what they do, then they'll be fine. If the Yankees just do what they do, they'll be fine. So I'm honestly more frustrated with the teams I root for than I am with who they play, because in my mind, like, the Nets should win the title, assuming that they just take care of what they need to take care of, and assuming that the Yankees take care of what they need to take care of. Like, there isn't anything that can get in their way besides themselves. That's the way I view it, which may be a self-centric view of it, but that's just the way I feel. By the way, real quick, so the Yankees are dealing with a COVID outbreak here. 7 members of the coaching staff tested positive for COVID. Gleyber Torres sat out due to abundance of caution. He actually had COVID in December, and they're still sitting him out. And what this basically says to me is, Mike, I know it's a little, like, not really a sports topic, but this pandemic's we're never going to be fully clear of this COVID thing. Like, these dudes got the vaccine. They were following the protocols. They still get it. They can still spread it. And it's just like, man, it was really like a wake-up call. Like, you could. Are you
vaccinated?
I am fully vaccinated.
Yep, same here. But when I got my second shot, they told me it's only effective for like a certain period. So we haven't found like a full-time cure yet.
Which one did you get?
Moderna.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure Pfizer's the same way, and Johnson & Johnson. It's not like a lifelong.
Right. I think in 1 year you have to get a boost shot or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So we have not figured this out by any means. I think we have it under control better than we did at this point a year ago. But like, we haven't solved the COVID puzzle at all. Like, it's still a Rubik's cube, and we got one side of it perfect, and we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides of the Rubik's cube left jambalayed.
And like even like in the dugout, like you hear so much about in baseball, like 85% threshold, and now the Yankees they stopped wearing masks in the dugout because they eclipsed the 85% threshold. They thought that were in the clear. You're seeing like teams and stadiums go to 100% capacity, which obviously you should do, but like what I've learned over these last couple with the Yankees, I've learned just from watching the Yankees is that, and not like the news, or I don't watch the news anymore, just because of my schedule, but it's never going to end. And it was like a huge wake up call. Like, damn, like they thought they got the vaccine. They thought they were clear and they're not. And it's like, wow, damn, that is like it's almost like a gut punch because you're really never going to be clear of this thing. But
keep your head on a swivel. That's all I'll say.
Moving on, NFL schedule was released. I love how the NFL, by the way, I love how they like said it's 8:00 schedule release show, and then we do every team schedule by like 3:00 in the afternoon. So like, what are you doing? Like, if you're gonna like promote the schedule, like hold it in until the actual thing. It's almost like they did like an NFL draft, but we knew every pick before the thing started. It's like I had no desire to watch it because I knew what the schedule was.
I didn't watch it. I was at home on my couch and did not watch it because I already saw the Giants schedule.
Yeah, there was.
What was the point?
I just thought that was curious as to how they did it. But either way, I thought it was really annoying that they made the Jets face Sam Darnold in week 1, and they're not facing Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars until like week 14. Like, give me that to start off the season. Like, the NFL could have hyped that game up. Week 1, Lawrence, Wilson, let's go. But now I have to wait until December when the Jets are going to be 2-14 and the Jaguars are going to be 6-9 or whatever they're going to be, and it just who cares.
Yeah, the schedule release was stupid. I didn't agree with, releasing it week by week. I found it funny that Mike McCarthy was tweeting that, like, the Cowboys head coach, it's like, I hate this week by week release. Like, just give me the whole damn thing. When we had already seen the entire Giants schedule, I have a hard time believing that he hadn't seen the entire Cowboys schedule at that point. As far as each individual matchup, like, it's so stupid to get excited about these things now because you look at week 1 and we have, Cleveland at Kansas City. But what if Mahomes has turf toe again and like he misses that game? It doesn't have the same luster, or it's hard to get excited about a game that's still 4 months, 5 months out, whatever the math is, when so much can change and we just don't know. So I have a hard time getting like, oh my God, the Giants play the Broncos in week 1. What if Aaron Rodgers is on the Broncos? Yeah. That changes my I refuse to get worked up over the schedule until we are at least in August. In August, then I'll be like, okay, I can see this being a win. I can see that being a loss. The Giants are going to go 10-7, whatever their record will be. I hate the 17-game schedule. Those numbers don't add up in my head. It's going to take so much time getting used to, 9-8 now instead of 9-7. It doesn't sound right. But I just refuse to get worked up over a schedule release when there's still so many moving parts in the league that will determine how important each individual game is 6-7 months in advance.
So what's your record prediction for the Jets this season? How many games do they win?
6. 6-11.
I have it 4-13, and I think Zach Wilson's going to break Peyton Manning's record for interceptions. He had 28 and 90. I think he gets at least 29, possibly even 30. I think that the Jets are going to be like, just go out there and just chuck it around, and we don't care how many picks you throw. Just learn.
I really, really like Saleh. And I think he's going to win a game or two for y'all. I really think he's a really good head coach. I mean, we've never seen it, so this is just a guess, but I think he has all the makings of a really successful NFL head coach.
I think Darnold will come out in week 1. I think he's going to throw like 380 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions for the Panthers. I think Sam Darnold's going to go out there and he's going to he's not going to. This will be like this is Sam Darnold's Super Bowl. This is the game that he'll have circles starting from May 12th on, and he's going to do everything in his power to go out there and just show the Jets up and be like, you made the biggest mistake. I think he's going to go out there and just tear him to shreds.
What's the way too early line on that game?
I believe it's like -4 for Carolina.
Oh, I would take that. Can you actually bet on those lines?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So people, if you're betting on a week 1 game in May, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because even with like the COVID stuff, even with injuries in training camp in the preseason, like if you put like your life savings on the Chiefs and then Mahomes, as you said before, like hurts his shoulder, gets turf toe, and misses that game, you just wasted away your whole life. So
I saw the Giants were 1-point favorites over Denver. But if you have any intel that Rodgers is going to Denver, you could get a ton of value on the Broncos money line if you bet it now.
Yeah.
But I'm not touching any of that.
No, Giants. I was actually surprised. The Giants are not facing the Cowboys week 1, which is different. They're facing Denver, like you said. How many wins for the Giants this year?
9-8.
Yeah, I had it at 10-7. Not a single month Sunday Night Football game for either team this year. So that clearly says all you need to know about the state of football in the New York City area.
The Giants did have 2 Monday night games, though.
Yeah, the Jets do not have a single Monday nighter, and they have a 9:30 a.m. game on London, and they have one Thursday night game. And that is all for the Zach Wilson experience. I was surprised, though. The Jaguars didn't get much primetime love either. I thought the whole Urban Meyer, Trevor Lawrence, possibly even Tim Tebow dynamic would be interesting to the general public, but I guess the fact that you play in Jacksonville doesn't really resonate very much.
Can we talk about Tebow real quick?
I love it. I hope he makes a team. I hope he makes an impact. I'm rooting for him. This whole notion that like he's taking a roster spot for somebody, give me a break. The 53rd guy on the roster, what is he gonna like make a tackle or 2 on special teams during the season? Screw that. Give me Tebow anytime, any day. Give the kid a shot. I love it. Give me more Tebow. The more Tebow, the happier I am.
I actually agree, and I think it's low-key genius because
hang on, genius. You can't
listen.
Don't spew the marketing bull crap on me. Are you gonna say jersey sales?
No, I swear to you, I'm not saying jersey sales, even though that is part of it. But no, listen, he's not gonna make the 53-man roster. If you think he's gonna make the 53-man roster, you're out of your mind. But I do think with Jacksonville being so horrendous over the last few years, and then Trevor Lawrence falling into their laps, every eye is gonna be on Trevor Lawrence in camp. And that's where Tebow comes in. Tebow is the perfect distraction to avoid some of the pressure off Lawrence in camp. The circus will not be on, Trevor Lawrence threw an interception in red zone today. The circus will be on Tim Tebow got absolutely annihilated in pump block. And the first question to Urban won't be, that was a bad throw by Lawrence. Are you worried about his progression? The first throw will be like, Tebow sucks. Why is he out here? So it actually shields Lawrence a little bit through his first mini camp or training camp in the NFL from whatever possible media scrutiny would come at. So from that perspective, I think it's genius. We're talking about the Jaguars. Good for Tebow. If he loves to play, he loves to play. I don't think there's any chance he makes the 53-man roster. But you know what? Good for the Jaguars. I want to see like Eli Manning sign as a tight end with Green Bay and just add that quarterback controversy to the whole Aaron Rodgers scenario. That maybe Eli's making a comeback. Or I would love to see Peyton as a punter with the Minnesota Vikings or someone random like that. Bring the old guys back. It's fun for everybody.
Last thing before we go. Obviously, the game everyone's got circled on their calendars is Week 4. Patriots, Buccaneers in Foxborough. Brady's return. If you're a Patriots fan, you have to cheer. I mean, no matter what, if you're 0-3.
Absolutely.
Most anticipated regulars. I mean, I saw some arguments like the most anticipated regular season game in history. Where you sort of stand on that matchup? Brady going back to Foxborough for the first time since leaving.
If they're both 3-0 heading into the game,
they're not going to
be. I thought you just said we're not predicting wins and losses.
The Patriots aren't going to be 3-0, but whatever. Yeah.
If they're both 3-0, I think it has a chance to be. Because then it'll be like the Belichick way versus the Brady way, and it'll be that clash. But no, if New England's 1-2 and the Bucs are 3-0, like it'll be cool to have Brady back. But most anticipated game ever. I don't think a Week 4 game can ever be the most anticipated regular season game ever.
The hype for that game will be through the roof. That's all they're going to be talking about that game, like basically the whole year until it happens. It's going to be, if you want like an oversaturation or something. Brady going back to Foxborough is going to be just that, and it's going to be quite the spectacle come early October. But that'll do it for this edition of Lucas Podcast. Find me on Twitter at Lucas Frankel, him at Cash Lucas. See everyone next week.